Okay, hello, Dylan Cummings here for RGK Wheelchairs, here with a true pioneer of wheelchair basketball, Mr. Patrick Anderson. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, man.
Good.
Good to see you.
Great to have you here. Hope you're enjoying your stay in the UK.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
It's good to be back, man.
Good. Okay, so the first question I've got for you, Pat, is you've been playing wheelchair basketball for over 30 years now. Are you able to elaborate on what the sport means to you?
Gosh, that's open-ended, huh? Sure. How much time do you got?
All the time you want.
The sport's been a lot of things to me, right? Like, when I first got injured when I was 9, it was just a lifeline. You know, I lost my independence, lost sports, lost mobility, and it was just like coming up for air, you know? Then I started hearing stories about the Paralympics and playing for Team Canada, and then it became more of a drive, you know, something I just had to achieve and had to find out how far I could go. And then it became like family, you know, and it's like I'm playing because I still love the sport and because I like to compete, but also because I like to be with my guys, my people, like, you know. And as I've gotten older, you mentioned how many years? 30 years? 30 plus years.
30 plus years.
You know, now there's a sense of like, it's really fun to be that older player that other kids or other players or younger players have heard about or maybe look up to or are curious about, because I can remember when I was a young kid and seeing guys like Dave Kiley and Trooper Johnson and these older guys who I was just so psyched to see play or to play against, you know, and now I have a chance late in my career to be that kind of player. So it's meant, you know, different things at different times, and in some ways that's what's fun about this journey, you know. It's been really a journey, you know, like I've really enjoyed the sport and been challenged by the sport in all kinds of different ways over the years.
And then you mentioned about the sport being your lifeline and opening up to all these friends and all these opportunities. Was that kind of immediately, or did that sort of happen over time?
Yeah, it kind of happened a little bit at a time, you know, like when I started playing, there was no junior team in my area, so I just played with the sort of second division adult team, and you know, we travel, you know, 50 kilometers there and 20 kilometers there, and it was just about kind of just seeing the lay of the land, you know. You know, the guys that I was introduced to the sport by were like, you know, Paralympians with a lot of talent and a lot of personality, you know. And so I think what really drew me in initially was both those stories about, you know, playing, you know, in places like Korea and overseas. I was very exotic. You know, the joy, I just feel like the wind in my hair again, like as I wheel down the court rather than, you know, being pushed to school in a hospital chair. That was exhilarating. I forgot the question.
So, like, it sort of kind of happened over time.
Over time?
Yeah.
What happened over time?
How you felt about wheelchair basketball being a lifeline.
My comprehension of this question?
Yeah.
It happened over time. The lifeline part, right, that's the key word. Sorry, I take all that back. I don't really, but I guess the better way to put it would be, it did not happen over time. Like how would I say? You know, the year between my accident and the first time I played wheelchair basketball was very hard in a lot of ways. And not just for me, like for my family and people around me who are trying to support me and help me recover. And but I was, you know, sitting in a 40, 50-pound hospital chair, having people push me around the schoolyard, and it was very frustrating, you know. And I watched my friends play sports, and I looked at that tree that I used to climb like a few months ago, and it didn't really, I couldn't really get a sense of like how I was going to get back to that kind of freedom and joy, you know. As I started to recover and kind of get stronger and like I could move, I could tell my body wanted to do it, but I didn't have the tools yet, you know. And but when I got my first wheelchair, like a year after, just before I attended my first sports camp, the combination of having like an ultralight wheelchair, I mean, it's funny, I look back now, it was a Quickie 2 folding day chair, you know, but it was it might as well have had rockets on it, you know.
Yeah.
It was such a boost, you know. And I wheeled that thing under the wheelchair basketball, or under the basketball court, and it was sort of instant sort of liberation. Like I could just feel like, oh, like the shackles kind of falling off. You wouldn't necessarily known that to see me play, because I couldn't do much and I could barely get the ball to the basket, but that's what it felt like. So long story short, yeah, like the wheelchair basketball was a lifeline kind of immediately as soon as I wheeled on the court. I could just feel something to change, you know.
Yeah, that's great, and it's great to see how much the sport has impacted your life and how much you've impacted the sport itself as well. So.
Well, it's nice of you to say.